Hey, welcome in everyone. Dave Solentano here with our Wednesday night guitar tricks lessons. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. We're doing good there. Hello, Terry. How you doing there, bud? Got one signed up already. Cool. All right. And Steve there. All right. We're going to be working tonight on week 2 of the string bending and vibrato. So hopefully you guys and ladies have some good questions for me and we can kind of move on. I'm going to pick up with example 5. We did example 1 through 4 2 weeks ago. Last week, my band had a gig and we were at that. I was taking care of playing live. It's always fun to do, you know. That's the reason why we're playing guitar, right? For most of us is possibly to jam with friends, maybe not necessarily play live, but to play with some other friends and make music together with other musicians. But it's just as cool to be a bedroom guitar player where you just kind of play by yourself in your room and just kind of get good on your own. That's fine too. Okay, welcome in there. We got Craig, Richard, David. All right, some of the usual suspects. King 50. And Dave's saying, now that you've got an Axe effects, what are you using live for effects other than amps reverb? Good question, Dave. Live, I play that Blues Junior right there. Actually, I got 2 of them. I got a pair, but I just bring one to the show. That one right there is actually that's the one I usually use at the show. And then I've got a Tube Screamer TS9 909. No, I think it's just TS9. And then EP little volume boost that kind of gives me it kind of gives like an amp, a tube amp crunchy tone. And it allows me to turn the volume up. So when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I've got a softer volume, and then I can just step on the pedal to get a little more volume for my solos. And then the Tube Screamer gives me a little volume as well, a little volume boost, plus a little more sustain and overdrive. Cool. Alex, hello. How you doing? And Terry, cool. And that's it, Dave. That's all I use. You know, it's most of what we're doing is just coming from the fingers. Granted, here on the Axe effects, I'm using that right there, but I'm controlling from a laptop off camera. I've got a little bit of overdrive, and I've got a TS9 Tube Screamer pedal added onto the chain using the Blues Junior amp sound. And then I've got a reverb on it and a little slapback delay. You can kind of hear it, you know? Anyway, little Santana there I've been working on. I think we're going to start doing a couple Santana songs in the set list, Evil Ways and Black Magic Woman. So I'm just kind of getting those licks ready. But let's get on with our session here tonight, folks. We worked on vibrato and some whole step, half step string bending last time and some reverse bends. Today we're going to work on example 5. So if you expand your video, the text underneath your video on YouTube, you'll see a blue URL link. You might see a few. One of them's probably for registering or becoming a Guitar Tricks member. But the other one says print the curriculum here or something to that effect. So grab that, and then we're just going to start chewing into it. And this is part of this long-going lead guitar series that I'm doing, lead guitar technique series. So next week and the week after, we're actually going to be working on some pick technique stuff like alternate picking and tremolo picking, just the back and forth stuff. In a few weeks down the pipeline, we're going to be working on some other pick techniques like hybrid picking and sweep picking as well. But next 2 weeks will be on alternate picking and some good pick technique exercises for you. Hello, Dennis, and a Bangs here too. Coolness. All right. So shoot me some questions in the chat window. If you got any questions or comments, just put them up there. That's what I'm here for. I know a lot of students tend to ask about vibrato and some tips on that. So if you're not quite feeling you got a good vibrato, let me know and I can point that out. But let's move on to the example 5 is the unison bends. They get kind of a fatter sound instead of just bending one note. Which sounds cool like that, but listen what it sounds like when you add in the second string held by the first finger. What we're doing is we're basically going to bend that third string with the third finger up to the pitch of that second string. So you end up, why we call them unison bends is because you want to try to shoot for the same note. And it's good ear training, people, because if you overbend or underbend on the unison, well, first off, if you overbend or underbend, typically it doesn't sound good when you're playing, or maybe, see, that's a little bit out of tune on the bendy part. But you can really hear it when you do unison bends, because if you bend right, they sound like they're in tune. But if you underbend or overbend, it kind of reminds me of an elephant. Okay, that's overbending. We don't want that. It's pretty ugly. Unless, of course, that's the effect you're looking for. Sometimes we want that. If you're looking for a weird, ugly sound, maybe that's what you want. But the thing is, everybody, if we're going to do that, we want to do it on purpose, not because we have lousy technique or not good technique. Also, underbending creates that elephant sound. Listen. Okay, now listen when it sounds, when I bend it nearly perfect. I'm not perfect at all, and none of us are because we're humans, but we try our best to get it exactly in tune. Now, this is a cool little thing you can add on top of a unison bend, is to try to vibrato the bend note, not the first finger note, but just the bend. Use your first finger as like the pivot point, and then your third finger is the one rocking up and down. And what I'm doing is keeping that knuckle where my index connects to the hand on the bottom edge of the neck. It's like a pivot point. And I just kind of let the bend go back and forth. Okay. Zach Wilde does this a lot. He does it really well. And I've heard Randy Rhoads do it a little bit. It's just a cool technique to make a simple melody. In fact, if I play the melody written on example 5 right there, it goes. Now let me play it with the right rhythm. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So you're hearing this melody. It goes. Try it again. 5, 8, 7, 10. 8 on the first string for 3 beats, 7 for 1, and back to 5 for 4. Okay, now add in the unison. Now, you can't really do the vibrato if you're moving quickly from one like that 8 on the second string. It's a quarter note. I don't have time to vibrato it because I'm moving quickly to the next. But whenever you're letting a note ring for 2 or 3 or 4 beats, that's where you can put in the vibrato. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It kind of makes it sound like it's sort of screaming, right? If you're a fan of heavy metal, that kind of sounds pretty cool in that style. Okay, so not all these licks and techniques are necessarily going to be good in country music or blues, but they do use a lot of bends in country music and blues as well. So some of the stuff will sound really good in that, and it might not sound appropriate in harder rock, heavy metal stuff. But these unison bends, to me, they're really cool in that heavier type of sound. Let me just catch up with the comments here. Malaysian saying, hey, am I the only lady here? I'm here to learn a few techniques to improve my skills. Well, you come to the right place. If we're working on, if you're doing lead guitar stuff and you got your electric guitar with you, tonight we're working on string bending and vibrato. So that's what we're covering here. Okay, so that's it with the unison bends. It's, kind of a tricky thing to do. I know a lot of folks already have a hard enough time to bend a note in vibrato. You can add in that first finger on the second string, 2 frets back on all of them. It's a neat technique. Takes a lot of finger control, and it would help too, people, to have extra light strings on your guitar for all this bendy stuff. I use 9-42, which is really, most guitar players that do a lot of bends tend to use that. Thicker strings get you a little more sustain and volume, but they are a little bit harder to bend, and they're a little tougher on your fingers too. And you got to have stronger hands, obviously. So 9s are a good good gauge of strings to work with. Okay, let me get that out of there. Okay, let's see. All right, now David's got a comment here. When you move to one of your 25.5-inch scale shred guitars, do you even notice the difference in string tension? How when you play these big bends with vibrato? I don't really notice it, Dave, at that much. I just kind of work through it. And if it is a little more hard, it's not that much where it makes much of a difference. It's just a little bit tighter feeling. And it's also, on a longer scale neck, like what you're saying, 25.5 inches, it would just make your fingers a little stronger if you can do it on that. And then when you come back to like a Gibson scale that's like 24 3/4, I believe, it just feels a little looser, a little more spongy, and it's easier to do the bends and vibrato. Yeah. Now Terry's saying, are you pre-bending or picking and bending? I'm actually picking and bending, Terry. But I bend kind of rapidly up. Watch. Slow motion. It's not. Because part of the coolness of that sound, Terry, is that when you hear Zakk Wylde or Randy Rhoads or some other guitar players do it, they're starting from this sound when the 2 notes are not bent, and that's a major second interval. It sounds kind of ugly, right? And then you push it up. So what it's doing is kind of giving a little tension, right? It's creating a little angst because it sounds sort of like you're squeezing the life out of that note and then getting it back in tune right there. So part of the coolness of that sound, Terry, is going from that ugly out of tune. Okay, it's also good ear training, everybody. Even if you can't do the vibrato, just to practice playing both notes and then pushing the 3rd finger up. Okay, now I gotta let you know this: if you do it on the 1st and 2nd string, it's the same concept. Your 1st finger holds like the 5th fret 1st string, but the 3rd finger, it doesn't bend the note 2 frets higher on the 2nd string. It bends 3 frets higher because what we're doing is creating a major second interval, which is, in other words, a whole step apart. Okay, it's 2 half steps. So those 2 notes, 8 to 10 on the 2nd string is your whole step. But what we're doing is playing that 10 on the 2nd string over on the 5th fret 1st string. It's the same note. Okay, there you go. And Malaysian, there are a few other females that do show up in the class, but apparently it looks like mostly males here. But there are a few that come in once in a while. But don't worry about it. We're all here to learn guitar. Doesn't matter what race you're from, what male, female, gender, whatever. That doesn't matter. We're here to play guitar. And we're all human beings, right? And we all got 5 fingers generally on each hand. We all basically have the same set of tools, provided you have a nice guitar or a decent electric guitar that's set up where you can bend. We're all equal in that. And I'm just here to help everybody, give some pointers and tips. Okay? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're very welcome, Malaysian. All right, David's saying for the ladies, check out Nita Strauss. Yeah. Isn't she the one playing with Alice Cooper, David? I'm seeing her tomorrow. She's fantastic. Oh, well, Dave, at your next one-on-one lesson with me, maybe you can spend like 1 minute. I know we like to get going with the lessons, get as much as we can done in them, but maybe you can give me a little 411 on the show. Let me know how she is. She is an amazing player. Did she used to play in the Iron Maidens, David? Because my buddy's band opened for the Iron Maidens out in California when we lived in Los Angeles at a club in the Reseda. And I went and saw him, and then they came on, Iron Maidens was a female, clever. It's a female version of Iron Maiden. It was all females, and they kicked butt, man. They were great. Yeah, man. Awesome, Dave. Yeah, she's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, she was shredding back then, and that was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I forgot what the bar was, and I don't think it was Palladino's. Yeah, it was Palladino's. It's actually not there anymore in Reseda. I think it changed owners, and now it's something else. But for a while there, man, they would always have a lot of great rock bands showing up. Cool. All right, cool. All right, let me read the comments here, people. That's all I'm staring at for. All right, Craig's saying, when you are spanning 3 frets like 8, 11, do you use the little finger and the bend? No, Craig. Most guitar players don't bend with the pinky finger, okay? I'm not going to say they never do. That's why I say most, but most guitar players don't. Couple reasons. It's the shortest finger on our hand, and it's also the skinniest, the weakest one. So a lot of guitar players tend to just try to get this stretch and do it with the same fingers, 3 and 1. Or even if you're not doing a unison bend, they still would just bend with the 3rd or 2nd. Okay. But if you ever do bend with the pinky, Craig, use your other fingers behind it. Like if you're going to bend the 8th fret 2nd string with the pinky, then use your 3rd and 2nd, maybe even 1st right behind it for a grip. I just feel a little loose with that. I mean, I definitely use the pinky on a lot of the fast stuff. I use the pinky all over there, and of course, I'm butchering it. But I definitely use the pinky all the time, just not on bends, because it's kind of a weak finger, and I just feel more control and confident grabbing a note with my 3rd or 2nd or even the 1st. Okay, so but not to say you can't do your pinky, but that's what I do, Craig. I just kind of go with the stretch and just kind of stretch my fingers out. A while back ago, I did some work with Michael Schenker, helping him with his first and only instructional DVD. Let me see. Yeah, there's a picture of it right there. It's kind of folded over, but it's me and Michael Schenker in the studio. We were in Burbank in one of their recording studios, and we shot a video. This company that he did, I think it was Hot Licks, but they hired me to kind of transcribe everything Michael did in the performance, and then I also taught some of the lessons on that DVD. Michael did all the playing, and then I transcribed his stuff. And went ahead and taught. I made up lessons based on his incredible awesomeness of guitar playing. But one thing I picked up from him is that he uses first and third finger like a lot, especially when he's like down in G pentatonic. He would just stretch his fingers like really far apart, like do a lick like this. And I was like, wow, that's incredibly far. And I've never done that before. But after seeing him and transcribing his stuff for the lesson, I mean, I don't want to change his fingering. I want to teach it the way he played it. Said I just kind of toughened up and learned those licks that he was doing. But he really was good at stretching out his fingers. The nice idea about that, though, is that when you do licks like that, maybe up a G at the octave, you do the same fingers. That way you don't have to change fingering, okay? Plus, it's easier. You get a lot more power and speed when you use that third finger because it's stronger. But you can also do the pinky. Anyway, so that's my little pinky philosophy, Craig. There you go, buddy. And now David's saying, yes, Iron Maidens and Alice Cooper. Yeah, she's touring with Wolfgang. Oh, that's cool. All right. I have 2 extra tickets. Come on over. Oh, man, Dave, how I wish I could. That's awesome, though. She's like doing a solo tour, I suppose, and then opening for Wolfgang's band, Mammoth. That's very cool. Very cool. All right, moving down the line, and looks like some of the comments are talking with each other. That's fine, too. Cool. Okay, cool. VVG covers. He says, what's your favorite chord? I'm not sure if you're asking me or someone else in the comment thread there, but what favorite chord? All kinds of them. Purple Haze chord, E7 sharp 9. I love a lot of jazzy kind of chords, Dave. I'm kind of getting off the beaten path for our picking techniques, but doing. Yeah, just if you want to know about some more chords, VVG, check out some jazzy stuff because the jazz plays a lot of nice, beautiful 7ths and 9ths and 13ths, 6s. What's it? I'm spacing. Kind of butcher and take 5. Sometimes it's hard to remember like all song, a ton of songs. I know a bunch of them, but if I don't play them for a while, probably like you folks, you get a little rusty. But I haven't done take 5 in a while, but just for a bunch of chords, it's got a lot of beautiful jazz chords in there. Minor 7, major 7, minor 7, flat 5, minor 7, minor 7, minor 7, dominant 7, major 7. That's like a minor 6 chord. But Jazz has a lot of beautiful chords. So anyway, back at the ranch here, let me get back on with our string bending and vibrato. Okay, moving on to page 2, folks, oblique bends. An oblique string bend is where you're going to bend a note up, all right? Like we got 10 on the second string. Pardon me. Okay, we're going to bend a note up. And they do this in country music, okay? See, so what we just did on a previous example was good in heavy metal, but these kind of bends right here are good in rock, blues, country as well, and even also hard rock, heavy metal. An oblique bend is where you bend a note on a particular string, like a second string, for instance, and you hold it at a higher note on the first string or another string with another different finger. So that lick in example 6 there, oblique bends, is like that. And then we pick the 10 that's bent, let it down. That's a reverse bend. We talked about that last lesson 2 weeks ago. So if you hear that over a G chord, okay, but I've got it, the chord I have written there is an A minor. So we got more to the lick than just that first one. We got this. Then over to the third string, we're going to do another oblique bend. Bend the 7th fret third string. Up a whole step, bend it in tune. Add the 8 on the second string with your pinky. Pick the 7 that's bent, let it down. And then we end it with a 7-5 on the 4th string pull off. Back to the 7 on the 4th string. So we got this. Okay, let me play it in time and then I'll get to those comments there, right there. So we got 3, 4. 3, 4. Again. See how I add the vibrato in there? Whenever we sustain a note, it's really good to vibrato it instead of just going. Okay, doesn't sound bad, but it also sounds kind of uninspiring, right? The vibrato makes it sound more musical, and it's also bringing in the human element. It's letting my heart and soul into the note, just like you. You know, when you play, you're pouring your emotion and your time, your heart and soul into those notes you're playing. That's what a solo should be about, is putting, based on your technique level, right? When you play a solo or improvise or play, you can only play what you know and what chops and what techniques you know. You're not going to be able to sit there and come up with a cool tapping lick improvised if you don't know how to tap, all right? Or if you don't know how to vibrato or string bend, it's not going to happen magically. You're going to need to work and spend time on it, people. You're going to have to spend a lot of repeating the same thing until you get it. Make sure you're in tune, right? See, if we don't bend those notes a full step, see, it sounds really kind of silly when I'm out of tune. Got to bend them a full step, which is 2 frets higher, a whole step. And just adding vibrato. Anytime the note's going to ring, sustain, add vibrato. Think about when you hear a good singer, whether it's Bruce Dickinson in Iron Maiden or Rob Halford in Judas Priest, or some beautiful singer singing the national anthem at one of our sporting events, right? When they hold notes and then you hear them add the vibrato, all right? It's very cool technique. And what we're trying to do as guitar players is to emulate that human voice quality. Okay, let me catch up with the comments. What's your favorite chord? Blah, blah, blah. All right, King 50, Bill there saying, saw Dave Brubeck Quartet in the 80s. Wow, so cool. Yeah, I love that jazz stuff, man. I'm not really a good jazz player, but I love playing, learning the tunes and the melodies, the heads is what we call them in jazz. And then trying to improvise over it. It's challenging. It's hard to do. That's how you're going to get better, everyone, is work on what you're not good at. Okay, so don't run away from doing the string bends and vibrato just because it's hard. If you do that, you're never going to get it. So you got to stick with it. Hey, I want to say, put a hi out to my buddy Rocky, who's across the street watching me live on the YouTube classes pretty much every Wednesday. He never chimes in, but I keep encouraging him to do so. So maybe one of these days he'll put a comment in the comment bar there. But anyway, let me get back to the shop here. Jim's comment after Dave or King 50s. Hey, Dave, got home late from work, but made it for the second half. Awesome, Jim. All right, good to see you. Cool. Dave saying oblique bends, Joe Walsh comes to mind. Oh, yeah, Dave, great. What's that Funk 49 song? See that? Just that lick right there. It's got a bunch of stuff. You got the oblique bend, which is bend in the 3rd string, 7th fret. Holds it, plays the 8 on the 2nd string. Then he picks the 7 on the 3rd, lets it down. It's essentially my lick in bar 2 is the one Joe Walsh does. All right? But it's not Joe's lick. A lot of people have done that. Hotel California solo has a ton of oblique bends where they're bending. A lot of bends. There's an oblique bend there. There's another oblique bend. There's another one. Okay, I can keep going, but you get the idea. Okay, oblique bends are everywhere. Cool song, Funk 49. All right, Dave. Yep, cool. Joe Walsh, great guitar player. Cool. Leslie West, Mississippi Queen. Exactly, Steve. I'm not going to pull that one out tonight because I can't remember. I used to play it, but I don't want to embarrass myself too bad. I already did on take 5 a little bit. But, usually people, when you learn something really good at one point and you don't play it for a year, sure, you forget. Like I was kind of a little rusty on take 5. Once you play through it and then kind of remember what the chords were or whatever it was, the licks, it comes back, you pick it up again real quick. It's not like learning it from brand new, like you'd never played it in your life. Okay? So cool. VVG saying, Get Back from the Beatles also comes to mind with oblique bends. Yes. Yep. I'm forgetting the licks, but that first one. That's something like that. We got that one. Pretty sure that one's on the Guitar Tricks site. I'm 99% sure. I think Mike Alexi's the instructor, does killer lesson on that one. Cool. All right, let's move down the line. Now we got number 7, people. I'm going to rip through this stuff. So we got a half hour to finish page 2 and then page 3 there. Okay. So page 2's got a fast and slow bend. Okay. This is kind of a neat, let me play it here real quick. Yeah, this is Marty Friedman. Me and him went to the same high school back when we were teenagers before he got super famous in Megadeth and doing what he's, taking his awesome guitar playing to the world. But he had, believe it or not, he actually was in my high school. He went to he was in 12th grade. I was in 10th grade at the time. And my buddies were saying, you got to, reach out to Marty because he's, I knew who he was. I knew he was an excellent player. We used to watch him in his one of the bands, high school bands he played in. But I found out he gave lessons. So I reached out to him and he was super cool. And I took a few lessons from him. And then one thing I picked up from him, he does these really unique bends where he would go. If if you listen to some of his instrumental albums and even probably in Megadeth, you hear those kind of bends a little bit, where he kind of bends really quickly up, lets it down. It almost sounds like a kind of like a car shifting gears or a motorcycle shifting gears. So what you would do, for example, 7, I call it a fast and slow bend. You bend the 10 up really quickly and let it down and back up slow. See, it takes a little bit of a kind of finesse with your hand. You can't be tender-footed with this stuff. All right, you can't go and lightly doing it. You got to kind of dig in and just kind of twerk it. So slowly it's this. So I bend it up a full step, let it down, and then back up. And then I hold it. Now, this is kind of cool, too. I picked this up from Steve Lukather, and I believe Gary Moore, too. They would bend a note, and then this is another form of an oblique bend when you add a higher note on the same string with your pinky like this. So I'm going, hold it, and then I play the 11 on the second string with my pinky while it's still bent like this. See how that works? So it goes. So I add the pinky, take it off, add the pinky, take it off, and then let the bend down. Now, it's real important, back to that being in tune when you do your bends. If you don't bend in tune, then the note you add with your, not only is the note you're bending out of tune, but when you add your pinky, that's also out of tune. Listen. Or, see, it doesn't, if you hear the context of A minor. See, that sounds good, but we don't want to overbend or underbend. This is good ear training people too, because playing guitar, playing any instrument, it's all, we can't touch the sounds we're hearing, all right? We only hear them. So it would help you, it behoove you to strengthen your ear. Do some ear training. Make sure, play the note that you want that 10 to sound like, which is a whole step higher. 12 on the second string, bend the 10 up to that. Hear that? That's what you got to do, is match that note. And after a while, you don't have to play the appropriate note and then as a reference and then bend up to it. You'll just know what a whole step sounds like after a while. It's like singers. They don't have frets to hit or keys on a piano to bang, right? All they've got is their voice. So they need to kind of feel what a whole step is and what a major second and a major third and perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, an octave is. They need to be able to sing those notes, like a note, and then go up an octave and know exactly what it is. They can't hit a note and then sing of many notes until they find it. They need to go right to it. That just comes with training and practice, okay? Just like us, everybody. It's practice and training. You'll get there, but a couple things. You don't give up, okay? Because as soon as you give up, you're not getting anywhere. Even if you go at a snail's pace, right, you're still going to get there eventually. Just take your time. There's no rush. Don't worry about what the next door neighbor, the Joneses, are doing and what the guy down the street's doing or the lady down the street's doing with her guitar. Just play your guitar, have fun with it, and then try to make it a point. Part of your main agenda, your goals, is to learn something new and get good at it and continually add stuff to your repertoire. The problem with a lot of folks when they get stale and stagnant is they might learn like 3 or 4 songs and then that's all they do. Whenever they pick up their guitar, they play the same old 3 or 4 songs. Granted, they might sound really good at those 3 or 4 songs, but we got to get out of our comfy zone. We got to be uncomfortable, people. That's when you're going to learn. When you're uncomfortable doing something on guitar, when it's a challenge, a little stressful, that's when you're making improvements. All right. When you're just playing the same old cowboy chords or same old, pentatonic scale that you've done a billion times, you're not really getting better. You're just kind of keeping the ball rolling, but you're not going to the next level. Okay. Let me read a couple more comments quick. Dave's saying, okay, I'm talking too much today, but that bend from Luke where you add the additional note a half step up from the bend is totally new to me. Never seen that before. Cool. Yeah, Dave. And same with Ed Van Halen. When Eddie goes like in Panama, you know, what is that? Those are oblique bends, right? With when he's adding those tap notes, he's bending a note. See, it's impossible to do that lick. That note is the same as going. Play Ed's lick like that. But it sounds kind of choppy and a little messy, right? But if you do it his way, it sounds way more smooth and clean, you know? So there's certain licks Eddie does with his tapping that you just cannot play any other way. They only, otherwise they're, there's maybe a few of his licks you could probably do a different way and have it sound good. But most of his really cool ideas, you can't do them another way and make them sound that cool. They would sound kind of fumbly and awkward. Okay. So another thing from David, he's saying, and if your bend is not accurate to pitch, it's a mess. A great drill to force you to hit pitch like it. Cool. Awesome, Dave. Yep. It's important to just bend in tune, people. Work at it. You're only going to get better if you work at it. All right. And another thing too, that's a good point is record yourself. All right. If you've got band practice with your band, record band practice, not to share with people, but just to listen to it back and critique yourself. If you're at that level, if you're just learning guitar and playing in your bedroom or your living room, right? Record yourself playing sometimes, and you don't have to share it with anybody, but listen to it back. And you're going to learn from that. You're going to hear things from an audience perspective, because sometimes when we're playing by ourselves or just, playing, we don't hear things as fully as when we don't have the guitar in our hands and we're just listening to the playback. Okay. When I was younger playing in bands, I would record some of our band practices. I'd take it home. And one thing I learned really quickly is that my bends were out of tune. It's like every time, I played solos and I thought they sounded good, except my bends sounded like they were not in tune. I only realized that. I didn't notice that at band practice. Plus at band practice, we're kind of loud, right? The drummers, we're all trying to play as loud as the drummers so we can hear ourselves. So with that volume up that way and the singer screaming, I just didn't notice it. But when I took back then we had cassettes. When I took the cassette home and listened to it, I realized pretty quickly how bad those bends sounded. And that motivated me to start working on that particular part. Okay. And try not to get caught up with playing other things like, I'm not working on my scales or my pick technique or my speed picking or whatever it is. You're still getting better, even if all you're doing is going like this. Just working on a bend and getting your bends in tune. That's going to help you a long way. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you get the hang of it, you don't have to keep practicing your bends to make sure they're in tune. All right. Just make sure when you're playing your solos, listen to your bends and pay attention that they're in tune. You don't have to keep practicing them. But if you're new to this, you got to practice them. And you might have to do, a bend. You might have to check it. How about a half step? How about another half step? You might have to do like 50 or 100 of those to start getting the hang of it. That's not uncommon. So don't feel bad if you don't get it after 3 or 4 times. You might have to do 30 or 40 times to get it. Okay. All right, so that's that lick, fast and slow. And then we got another one down on the second bar of example 7. It's the third staff line on that page. I'm bending the 14th fret first string a half step. I'm doing that quick bend, release, bend like Marty Friedman would do, like this. And I'm also muting all the other strings. You notice that with my right hand? I never do this. Because, see, strings ring. When we stop playing, that stuff's making noise in the background. So I always like to hug the strings that I'm not playing with my right hand and just keep them quiet. So that lick's kind of like what we just did, everyone, but we're bending the 14.5 step. Then we're going to 16 on that first string with the pinky. On, off. Let it the 14 down, a little vibrato. And at the end, I just play a little A minor arpeggio. 12 on the first, 13 second, 14 on the third. So we got all together, all of example 7 goes like this. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. Something like that, okay? So some cool ideas here. Example 8 is, what do I call this? Bending string with right hand behind left. This is hard to put in tablature because all we're doing is this. We're doing a hammer-on pull-off with your index on the 10th fret second string, ring finger on the 13th fret second string, and just hammer-on pull-offs. This is another thing to work on. Okay, it's not string bending and vibrato, but working on your trills, your hammer-on pull-offs, and just get them going. Randy Rhoads does that a lot with half steps. We talked about that a couple weeks back in our hammer-on pull-off series, part of the series. Santana does this a lot. Okay. Joe Perry, Aerosmith does that. Think about Train Kept a Rollin', the old Aerosmith cover tune. During the solo, you hear this go on. They're going to reach behind the left hand. Okay, this is easier to see rather than have it written down in text. But it says bending string with right hand behind left. Okay, so what I'm going to do is while I'm trilling, I'm going to put this side of my index finger, this part right here, I'm going to put the whole edge of it on the second string. It doesn't matter what fret you're on, but I'm about in the 5th fret area. And then as I'm trilling, I'm going to yank that string up. Okay, it's kind of like what Jimmy Page does on Heartbreaker when he goes. Okay, he's reaching behind the nut and yanking the G string. Okay, let's make sure that didn't put the guitar out of tune. Just yank on the strings real quick. I always like to play a few little things just to make sure it's in tune for real. Okay, anyway, so back to this one, folks. We got 10 on the second string, 13, and just keep your trill going. Okay, if you do it slow, it sounds pretty cool. Or if you do the trills faster. It's a neat little effect, all right? Sometimes I'll do that when I'm soloing in the band, just kind of for fun, just to do that. Like if we're in the key of D minor. Okay, neat little effect there. That's another string bending technique, right? Okay, what I'm trying to do here is exhaust like every possible string bending lick and technique that I've come across in my years of transcribing and learning other players' licks. Okay, let's go to page 3, example 9. This is called a bend, release, and pull off. Okay, this is a lick that a lot of my students have a hard time with, but I remind them that this is ultra common. So you want to get it down. Okay, so many guitars do this. When they bend a note, they'll bend it up with the 3rd finger, 7th fret, 3rd string. This is the first 3 or 4 notes of the first 4 notes in example 9, people. Okay, we're going to bend it up with a whole step. Let it down. Pull it off to the 5th fret. Only one pick. Pick. Let it down. Pull off. Okay, and then 7 on string 4 with your 3rd finger vibrato. So it goes. And that's a good lick to do with your pentatonic scale. You could do it in the 1st string, frets 8 and 5. Or you could do the 2nd and the 3rd string. Okay, just make sure you're playing notes of the pentatonic scale. The note we bend up to is a whole step up. That's one of the notes of the scale. Make sure when you bend your notes, you're bending to another note in the key you're in the scale. Okay, that helps it sound better. So this example 9 is a good little workout because the first 2 of them we're going to pause. We're going to go. And you could either vibrato upwards or you could vibrato tugging the note downwards. Like this. That's going up, and here it is going down. Okay, and then the next bar in that lick, we don't do the pause on the 4th string until the very end. We're going to do 4 of these licks. So we're going to go. Okay, Jimmy Page again in Heartbreaker when he goes. Remember that lick? Whatever the next part is. But he does variations on that exact lick I'm showing you there. So many guitarists do that. Okay, it's a good thing to know, a good lick. Okay, you get the idea. Let's jump down. We got a few minutes left here. Let's jump down. Check out example 10, everybody. This is called Putting It All Together. Ooh, okay. So this is like a little solo using a ton of string bending concepts that we just went over the last couple lessons, okay? Now the backing track looks like it's going A minor or A minor 7 and then the D7. Kind of clean up my tone a little bit. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4 then. not necessarily a bunch of notes riveting, but I'm trying to use all the ideas we talked about. Like the first one is sliding with 7 on the 4th string with vibrato. Hold it for 3 beats. Then we bend the 7 on the 3rd string, push it up and let it down. Vibrato. Okay, the next bend, 10 on the 2nd string, is the oblique bend. And then a reverse bend where the note's already bent, it's pre-bent, and you let it down. So we go. And then we do another oblique bend back at the 7th fret, 2nd string, only a half step though. 2, 3, 4. Then unison bends. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Ups. 1, 2. Played the wrong thing. Sorry. 3, 4. And then. I would probably not just end that so abruptly like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what's written, but I might do this instead. Now that, see, I wrote this stuff a long time ago, this curriculum, but now that I hear it back with a little distance from it, I probably would change that last one to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let the bend come back down. Okay. Dave's asking another question. For the notes on the 5th and 8th fret, unison, what's your fingering for the 8th fret again? 3rd finger, Dave. Absolutely. In fact, let me see. Oh, yeah, you know what? It's not written there. Yeah, for some reason, I neglected to write it on the 5 and 8, Dave, but the 8 and 11 is the same exact distance, the same geometry, just 3 frets higher. And I do have the fingers there. Okay. So all these unison bends are your 3rd finger doing the bending and your index holding the higher note on the next string. And keep in mind too, even though you're bending with the primary 3rd finger, the 2nd finger is always there to help out. It's never a 1 finger thing. It's never this. Because when I do 1 finger, I feel like the string, that G string, is going to pop out. All right. And also, I don't have as much strength and control. When I put 2 fingers on it, that string is not going anywhere except where I want it to. Okay. Yeah, it's a little hard to reach the 3rd finger, Dave, but keep in mind when I worked with Michael Schenker and saw how far he was stretching, even he was going from like the 3rd to the 6th fret with his 2nd finger on some licks. It was like, holy cow. But he had a pretty meaty hand, but he didn't have long fingers. I'm about his same height. My fingers are a little more skinny, but it's like that inspired me. It's something I didn't do before, and I worked on it. But let me see if I can play that solo over a backing track, because I just happen to have a lead guitar backing track that's those chords. Okay, it's kind of Pink Floyd sounding. There we go. I'm going to crank that up for everyone. Let me just line up the ducks here. Okay, I know we're almost done. So I'll play example 10 over that track. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's perfect. It'll fit perfectly. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was a little backing track I used for jamming with the students. Let me get that out of the way. Stop. Hang on one sec. All right, cool. So, and also didn't go over this, folks, but a lot of what I've got in my vibrato tips and string bending tips, you can read about that on your own. Okay. And I've talked about it all in the video tonight. And then 2 weeks ago, if you go back to see week 1 of 2 for this, I talk a lot more about that as well. So I go over all the tips there. Next 2 weeks, we will be working on pick technique, like tremolo picking, basically alternate picking, getting your chops together for that. And I've got some really good picking exercises, melodic things that sound like something you could use in a solo or parts of it in a solo. So join me next week, and that's when we will explore some pick technique stuff. If you're interested in working on your speed picking, this is what you want to do. I'm going to give you some pointers on how to pick faster. Okay. So practice in the meantime. Don't give up, people. Just practice, work on what you're not good at. And I know there's a lot we're not good at. I'm still working on a lot of things that I'm not good at. Don't worry about that. Just find a few things and work on a few things at a time. Okay. Because that's what I like about music and playing guitar, is that I'll never master it. All right. And anybody that says they mastered the guitar is fooling themselves. Granted, there's some really good jazz players, but they can't play heavy metal or country licks necessarily. They sound like a jazz player trying to do it. You ever heard, or some of these jazz players that try to play a rock solo, some of them sound, it sounds good, but it sounds like a jazz player playing rock. All right. For me, I sound like a rock player or a blues player trying to play jazz when I do my jazz stuff. But that's because I'm not good at jazz. That's something I like to work on in the background. And another thing I like to do is work on Spanish guitar playing, because I'm really in love with that style too. And that actually helps my pick technique chops for this electric guitar stuff. So there's always going to be stuff to work on. So just enjoy the ride, people. Don't worry about competing with every other guitar player on YouTube, because there's a lot of really good players out there. Just enjoy the ride. Have fun. Okay. We'll see everyone next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Keep practicing. Keep those fingers flying. And I will see you next week. Okay. All right. Good night, Craig. Dennis, cool. Richard, awesome. King 50, Bill, yeah. Alex, cool. Cool. All right. Well, do what you can, everyone. Keep practicing. We'll see you next Wednesday. Take care. All right, Jim. Yep. See ya. Good night, everyone. Bye.